Welcome back to Tailgate Talks. I'm Brad Schick, a Nebraska Extension Beef Systems Educator. In the not too distant future, this field is going to be harvested for grain, and then we're going to have the ability to graze some corn stalks. So grazing corn stalks is a pretty economical way to feed cattle, especially when we're talking about dry cattle. So if we have dry cattle out here, dry cows, they're going to be able to meet their nutritional requirements or get very close to that. But when we talk about it, are they actually grazing corn stalks? Well, yes and no. They're grazing corn residue, and they'll only actually graze the corn stalk or the stem if they're forced to, or if they're out there too long. In reality, what these cattle are going to be grazing are leaf and husk. Leaf and husk make up about 40% of the dry matter that's out there after a grain harvest, whereas the stem or the stalk itself is going to be about 50%. The other 10% is going to be our cob, tassel, silk that are still remaining, and things of that nature. In terms of quality, what those cattle are going to select is going to be approximately a 52 to 55% TDN, and the crude protein is going to be around 5 to 5.5%. When we think about how long to graze these cattle out on corn stalks, we have to first calculate how much is actually out there. So 1 bushel of corn produces 16 pounds of leaf and husk on a dry matter basis. Now we need to assume that about 50% of that is going to be lost to either trampling, wind, being defecated on, and we want to save some to cover the soil for organic matter. So now we're at 8 pounds per bushel produced. So now let's think about a field that produces 200 bushels per acre. So now we take 200 times 8 pounds of leaf and husk, because that's what they're going to be consuming primarily. And now we have 1,600 pounds of dry matter from leaf and husk. So some quick math tells us that that means that about 30 cow days per 100 bushels of corn produced. If we have situations where we have downed corn and we want to know that if there's a lot of corn out there, a quick and easy way to do that is to walk 100 feet at 3 different places in the field. Find the number of ears that they're in there. If there's on average about an 8-inch ear, say we have 20 ears out there, divide that by 2, we have 10 bushels per acre of corn on the ground. So the reason we want to know this is we don't want to turn cattle out and have them consume a lot of corn up front. If there's too much out there, we want to restrict the grazing so they can't consume too much corn and have acidotic problems. Grazing corn stalks or corn residue is a really economical way and a cheap way of feeding dry cattle, and it might help reduce some volunteer corn as well.